Kirk to Rayborn, report. I'm required to make a security confirmation. When I call my ship, if you list your personnel, cargo requirements, any special needs.
Star Trek is known for exploring the future, strange new worlds, and big ideas about humanity. But not every episode was welcomed with open arms. Over the years, some stories pushed boundaries so far that they were pulled off the air, restricted, or quietly banned in certain countries. These weren't small controversies either, they involved topics that television networks thought went too far. And once you see what these episodes showed, it becomes obvious why they caused such strong reactions, even decades later. So join us in this video as we review 3 Star Trek episodes that are still banned today. Number 3, Miri. The original series episode Miri begins like a mystery but quickly turns into something far darker. The Enterprise answers a distress call from a planet that looks exactly like Earth. When Kirk, Spock, McCoy, Janice Rand, and 2 security officers beam down, they find an empty town frozen in time, like a quiet 1960s suburb where everyone suddenly vanished. The silence does not last long. A badly disfigured man attacks them, collapses in a seizure, and dies right in front of them. Soon, they meet a scared girl named Miri. She runs from the crew because she calls them grups, her word for grown-ups. Miri explains that she and the other children are the only people left alive. Then the landing party notices strange purple spots forming on their own skin. Miri says those marks mean the same disease that assassinated the adults has started. According to her, grown-ups became brutal, lost their minds, and died soon after the first symptoms appeared. In an old medical lab, the crew uncovers the truth. The plague was an accident caused by a life extension experiment. The twist is chilling. The children are actually more than 300 years old, aging only 1 month every century, yet they still think and feel like normal kids. As McCoy rushes to create a vaccine, an older boy named John steals the crew's communicators, cutting them off from the ship and making the cure harder to test. Fear and jealousy push the children into a panicked mob. Miri helps them capture Rand, and they swarm Kirk until he is bleeding and furious. He finally reaches them by reminding them that the youngest kids will die helpless without the older ones. John gives the communicators back, McCoy tests the vaccine on himself, and the cure works. The episode aired once on the BBC in 1970, drew complaints, and was left out of repeats for years because many found it disturbing. So, what is another Star Trek episode that is still banned to this day? Keep watching to find out. Number 2, Plato's Stepchildren. This Star Trek episode is remembered for a moment that changed television history. During the story, Captain Kirk and Lieutenant Uhura are held prisoner by a strange society modeled on ancient Greece. Under the control of their captors, the 2 officers are forced to move toward each other and share what became the first interracial kiss ever shown on American television. It was a brief moment, but its impact reached far beyond science fiction. NBC itself did not object to the scene. Executives were more worried about how local stations in the Deep South might react once the episode aired. Surprisingly, almost no formal complaints came in. Viewers across the country seemed more ready for progress than many feared. The reaction overseas was different, though. When the series was later shown in the United Kingdom, the BBC chose not to air the episode at all. The official reason given was that the story was too brutal. Many believe the real concern was avoiding backlash from more conservative audiences. From censorship to controversy, what made this episode get banned? Let's find out. Number 1, Whom Gods Destroy. This episode drops the crew into one of the darkest situations in Star Trek. The Enterprise is simply delivering a shipment of advanced medicine to a high-security psychiatric facility on Elba 2, a remote planet used to hold the Federation's most dangerous criminally insane criminals. What should have been a routine stop quickly turns into a nightmare. The patients have already taken control, and the asylum is now ruled by one man, Garth of Azar. Garth was once a celebrated Starfleet captain, known for bravery and leadership. Now he is completely unhinged. He believes he is destined to rule the galaxy and has gained the ability to shapeshift, making him even more dangerous. Pretending to be the facility's chief doctor, he manipulates everyone around him while plotting to seize control of the Enterprise. The moment Kirk and Spock arrive, they are captured and thrown into the chaos. What follows is not just physical danger, but psychological torment. Garth plays cruel mind games, trying to break Kirk's spirit and prove his own superiority. His grip on reality is slipping, and he uses fear to control the other inmates. In one shocking moment, he assassinates another patient simply to show he has the power to do it. The violence and instability make the situation feel far more intense than a typical adventure. The climax becomes a tense battle of identity when Garth uses his shape-shifting ability to impersonate Kirk. Spock must determine which one is real before it is too late. His logic and loyalty finally expose Garth, and order is restored. The BBC later decided this episode was too disturbing for younger viewers. The mix of madness, torture, and sudden harshness pushed it beyond what they felt was safe for family television. But bans weren't new. How did Star Trek become so fearless? Stay tuned to find out. The franchise that dared to go further before looking at the episodes that faced bans and restrictions, it helps to understand just how big and influential Star Trek truly is. Created by Gene Roddenberry, the franchise began as a single television series and grew into one of the most recognizable science fiction worlds ever made. Over time, it expanded into movies, multiple TV shows, books, comics, and video games, becoming a global pop culture phenomenon and one of the highest-grossing media franchises in history. The journey started with Star Trek, the original series, which first aired in 1966. It followed the crew of the starship USS Enterprise, a vessel sent out by the United Federation of Planets on a mission of peaceful exploration. Each episode carried a sense of adventure and curiosity, summed up in its famous goal: to explore strange new worlds, seek out new life and civilizations, and boldly go where no one had gone before. Roddenberry drew inspiration from classic adventure novels, old Western television shows, and earlier science fiction films, blending them into something that felt both futuristic and familiar. Even though the original show only ran for 3 seasons, its legacy continued to grow. The characters returned in an animated series and later starred in 6 feature films. Decades later, television brought the universe back with a new generation of crews and ships. The Next Generation introduced a new Enterprise in a different era, while Deep Space Nine and Voyager explored other corners of the same timeline. Enterprise later stepped back in time to show the early days of human space travel. The film series also evolved. After the original cast's movies, the crew from The Next Generation got their own set of films. Then, in 2009, the franchise was rebooted with a new cast playing younger versions of the classic characters, set in an alternate timeline often called the Kelvin timeline. This allowed familiar stories to be told in new ways while still honoring the past. Streaming platforms brought yet another wave of series beginning in 2017. These newer shows explore different time periods within the same universe, from the years before Captain Kirk to far future centuries never seen before. This constant reinvention has helped Star Trek stay relevant for generations of viewers. The fan community has also played a huge role in keeping the franchise alive. Devoted fans, known as Trekkies or Trekkers, collect merchandise, attend conventions, and even create their own fan productions. Over the years, traveling museum exhibits, themed attractions, and countless collectibles have shown how deeply the series has shaped popular culture. The fictional Klingon language even became detailed enough for people to study and speak it in real life. Beyond entertainment, Star Trek earned a reputation for tackling serious social issues. It often promoted messages about equality, cooperation, and understanding across cultures. The original series featured one of the first multiracial casts on American television, reflecting Roddenberry's hopeful vision of the future. That willingness to push boundaries is part of why the franchise became so influential, and also why certain episodes later faced resistance, controversy, and even bans. So, where did those bold ideas and messages truly begin? Keep watching to find out. A future built on big ideas. Years before Star Trek ever reached television screens, Gene Roddenberry was already shaping it into something more than a simple space adventure. In 1964, he wrote a proposal for a science fiction series that he sometimes described publicly as a wagon train to the stars to make it sound like a familiar Western-style show. Privately, though, he told friends he was inspired by Gulliver's Travels. He imagined each episode working on two levels at once, an exciting story on the surface and a deeper moral lesson underneath. Most Star Trek stories follow humans and aliens serving together in Starfleet, the peacekeeping and humanitarian fleet of the United Federation of Planets. These characters are not just explorers, they are meant to represent humanity at its best. They value cooperation, fairness, and compassion, and they are often forced to apply those ideals in complicated and uncomfortable situations where the right answer is not always clear. From the very beginning, the series used science fiction as a mirror for real life. The original series reflected the social and political tensions of the 1960s, while later shows would do the same for their own eras. Through alien worlds and futuristic settings, Star Trek explored issues like war and peace, racism, sexism, class struggle, religion, human rights, and the growing influence of technology. Roddenberry once explained that by setting stories on distant planets with strange cultures, he could talk about controversial topics like politics, war, and social change without network executives immediately realizing how bold the messages were. Roddenberry's vision was strongly shaped by the spirit of change happening during the 1960s. He wanted the show to present a hopeful future where humanity had learned from its mistakes, especially the mistake of constant brutality. One example of this idea appears in the Vulcans, an alien species that once had a brutal past but chose logic and self-control over aggression. Their culture showed that growth and peace were possible. He also imagined the United Federation of Planets as an optimistic version of the United Nations, where different worlds worked together instead of fighting. This hopeful message was not always welcomed by television